Good afternoon, everyone. We will be practicing language justice in this space by using the Zoom interpretation feature. Once the Zoom interpretation feature is turned on, you will see a globe appearing at the bottom of your screen. You will click on this globe and choose your language. And you can also mute original audio. If you're joining us from a cell phone or other mobile device, you will not see the globe. Instead, you will go to the three dots that say more. From that drop-down menu, you will choose language interpretation. And there, you will choose your language, English or Spanish, and then you will mute the original audio and press done to make sure you're in the room. If you have any questions, you can ask us in the chat.
Okay, thank you so much, Marco. This is the only part that's going to be in English. I just want to say my name is Jenny Crosdale. I am the communications coordinator with the Illuminate Network. And I just wanted to give you a brief overview of what our Equitable Horizons blog series is about. We started this blog series to highlight equity, systems change, and collective leadership in various formats and in various fields. So we sent out a call to 10 authors, and we decided that we sent out a call and we chose 10 authors who we best believe would show what we want to embody in terms of systems change and collective leadership and equity. Sebastian was one of these authors. I am going to allow Sebastian to introduce himself and to introduce his work. But if you would like to learn more, or if you have not been following our journey so far, Sebastian is the 6th. If you haven't been following our journey so far, you can go ahead and I'm going to put the link in the chat, and you can go ahead and look at all the articles that we've published so far. Most of the recordings are already online. You can look at those for the previous webinars. And I hope everyone has a good, we have a good discussion here. And I will hand over to Sebastian now and post the link in the chat.
Thank you so much, Jenny. Thank you to everyone who is connected at this time. It's good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Sebastian Giraldo, and I am part of the movement for, the national movement for victims of the state, and the Plural Organization, which is an organization that is made up of victims of the state, primarily women, who are relatives of people in forced disappearance, who've experienced forced disappearance in Buenaventura. We also have Jurani and Magda here today. They are two colleagues, comrades in this process, who will be here with us during this conversation. Just one moment. And we're going to be here today sharing a little bit about how we came to write this article, and primarily about the process in which we're working to try to further the search for the people who have been disappeared in this municipality. And so if Jirani and Magda are here and they'd like to introduce themselves, that would also be helpful. Yes, good day. My name is Marta Giraldo. I am part of the national movement for victims of crimes of the state. Hello, Sebastian. Hello, everyone who is here forming a part of this meeting. And here we are. Good day. Can you hear me, Seba? Can other people hear me? Yes, we hear you, Jura. Good day. My name is Giovanni Astrillas, and I am also part of the movement, the national movement for victims of crimes of the state. and also a relative of disappeared peoples and the Manglar organization, the Mangrove organization. Great. Well, thank you so much for being here. Thank you also to everyone who is joining. I would like I would like us to begin talking a little bit about the context in Buenaventura, and then we can pass the mic to Mujeres Manglar or go on to Mujeres Manglar, just Mangrove Women. Jenny, if you could give me access so that I could share some pictures. I have a presentation I'd like to share. Thank you.
You have access now.
Yes, thank you. Okay, ready. So yes, just wanted to tell you a little bit about the context in which we're working as well. So Mujer Manglar, we're going to be talking in a little bit in this time, but primarily we work in the Buenaventura Special District, which is a really important city in Colombia because it's one of the main seaports in the country. Almost 60% of exportable goods come in through here and imports as well that come into the country. And so there's been different discussions about the importance of, primarily presenting the tension that exists between the territory city and what it implies for the communities, this development, and then the port city, which specializes in the construction and amplification of port projects to, amplify the logistical capacity that the port has to receive goods. And so within this context, we've been working for 4 years now on protective measures to San Antonio Estuary, which is a port that we're seeing right now on the screen. This is one of the images that show one of the territories that are part of San Antonio, which is a mangrove ecosystem. They're floodable fields that, depending on the movement of the tides, the water comes in and it comes out. And also like these muddy ways in which places in which life has been built in this municipality. Can you hear me okay? I just wasn't sure if I got disconnected for a moment. Yes, we hear you well. Can you hear me? Yeah, yes, we hear you. I hear you well. Oh, okay, apologies. Great. So, yeah, just wanted to share a little bit that, because of this tension that exists between the port city and the territory city, which is how they've been named, or what it implies for communities to build their territory in Buenaventura, and also what the port development means. There's been this tension that has like created different war or conflict dynamics, like in the social political atmosphere in Buenaventura. Buenaventura is a city that is particular also because of its presence of basically every armed group that has existed in the country. From the beginning, the dynamics of the conflict were primarily centered on, the definition or the control of the travel routes, for contraband, because of the presence of the port. And then after the Lasvac guerrilla arrived, then there was also a conflict of positioning within these armed groups in terms of drug trafficking. And so these contraband routes are also, um, since the 80s and 90s have been like well supplied because it's a territory in the frontier that like allows smuggling of goods into other countries, and primarily cocaine. And then um, uh, since the Aztec guerrilla arrived, they've taken control of the port, and then these drug trafficking dynamics have caused also the development of paramilitarism as a force of the state, as a like counter strategy. And then from other like let's call them entrepreneurial groups that were here before. So this dynamic of political and armed conflict, um, it's just really stark because of all the different criminal elements that are developed there. And then it's also really important to understand the use of forced disappearances as a tool of terror, as a tool of disenfranchisement, as a tool of uh, displacement for the communities of Buenaventura. And so within this context, we can say that the development of forced disappearances in this country have been really particular because of the way that it has developed and because of the different harms that it has implied for the communities and for the social thread of the communities in Buenaventura. So I would also like to uh, pass Marta the mic so that she can share with us how she came to us and how the victim movement started developing. Um, so she can tell us a little bit about the story, and then that will get us more into the material and the context of Mujeres Manglar. Well, good day. Good day again. How are you? Oh, we're well. We hear you well, Martita. Oh, yes, thank you. I was trying to like organize my background noise. Well, we got to Buenaventura around 2009, and we arrived, because of, let's say, these like just like casual conversations that we were having with people who had relatives who had been disappeared. And then we noticed that there was a pattern. There were a lot of similar stories. Something must be going on. What's going on? And also there was like an insistence in terms of a lack of action from institutions. And so that's something that caused a lot of discomfort in all of us in terms of how like victims' rights were materialized. And so we started having meetings where relatives would come from victims, and let's say we started organizing, which is what we've been doing from the strategies that we've been able to define as like work strategies. And so let's say that there's a strategy that's related, that's called an organizing strategy. And what it indicates is that the victims from different acts of the state need to organize and, let's say, get together, need to establish, let's say, pathways to exercising their rights. So we started working on this issue of organizing. How do we meet up? Like, why are we meeting up in terms of identity? And then these needs started popping up, right? Like as we were advancing and progressing on the search of people who were disappearing from actions, then we were seeing like the need for information, the need for guidelines, because even though there are like a lot of guidelines already, like how do you apply them? What applies to one case? What applies to a different case? And then all of this in terms of like the normalization that existed, we also started seeing this need of intervention with state agencies, which is very difficult, can be very hostile on the part of the state toward the families. And then it also required, how do we do it? How do we do it? In what way? And so we were using, petitions, declaration of absence, all of these more like juridic processes, so that when we came to the organizations, we could, come through these more formal means.
If I get there and ask, it's less now than before. But the way to get there was through that, and the response was through documents, and which would contain the required information. They were like mechanism, like legal, judiciary mechanisms that the citizens would have here. And related to that, the need started about getting psychotherapy. It was a process where we had to have psychosocial and emotional support. There was a need to be able to also deal a little bit with the financial situations that occurred in 2002 when women who were part of this process, the members of the families of the disappeared people, they were mostly older women, over 50 years old. There were some exceptions like Marlena and Giuliani and me. Of course, we are not that old, but most of the women were older in age, and in this situation, their age and the context of poverty, because Buenaventura is, let's say, characterized by having a very high poverty margin. Let's say there are not a lot of job opportunities. There are many, many complex situations. And of course, these situations have been part of the process. And also looking within this topic, there was a need because there was also the energy that occurred in the political level. And it was going to impact us as women because it's not something that would occur to us. It's not who we're orienting for, who we're doing this process for. It's also a matter of listening to their needs, listening to what they required, listening to their inspirations. And we start talking about these issues, and then we touch on the different topics. what weaving is, the reusable hygienic pads, and that's a process where our colleagues could work with. I don't know, Marlene and Julia are here, and Giuliani, but our colleagues could work with this. So there's this situation that creates a framework, and then we find out what we have sold and everything, sold and all that. And that would be it. Yeah. Thank you very much for that. Yes, Sijura, if you're here, yes, I'm here. I'm here, and Sylvia and Marlene are also listening. Yeah. So I grew out there through the forceful disappearance of my mother and brother. So I went into a severe depression. They helped me with psychosocial aid and equally with the same uh, uh, violence characteristics that we had been through. These women understood what we were going through because we were in the same situation. We were victims of that disappearance. Mujeres Manglar is born from wanting to weave our stories, wanted to put everything out there for us. We would weave all of our colleagues who knitted, who weave, their mind would take another journey and they could remember in a different way. Also, when we do the feminine path, we also use that space. And we're more than friends now. We're more than colleagues. We're there for each other. And why Mujeres Manglar? Because close to San Antonio, like Seba was mentioning, is it's at the ocean, and there's been a lot of things happening, but there's life there. And the mangrove, manglar, is where you grow, you fish, and we also wanted to see ourselves as a territory full of life, um, not only of this absolute sadness, the roots are very strong, and that's what we wanted to say. We're resilient women, and we felt that, like Madeline was saying, how the Mujeres Manglar project was so important when we were working with the feminine paths. We were learning more. We were being trained, and the economy also to go to our homes. This has helped us a lot to spend some of this sadness that we have in Buenaventura. When we're together, we talk a lot. We can even laugh at some moments because in spite of everything that is happening in Buenaventura, it's a space where we women can generate income and, and thrive and be useful, at least in this way, to society. I was speaking with my microphone on mute. Thank you, Laura, Jorani, and Mike. Thank you for sharing. I would like you all to tell us about the main learnings, main takeaways that you've had, and what the process has been like being in the organization. Like Jura was saying, how the transformation happened, having arrived in this such a difficult moment after what happened to Alex. And what you were learning, and what started getting meaning when you started meeting with the others and listening to one another and finding a voice in their own voice. So if you can tell us how that process has been, how participating has been. Yes, effectively. In my case, I could only cry. I would get there and cry and cry. I couldn't even talk about. We start learning, and thanks to accomplices, we start learning what we have, the rights that we have as victims, where we have to go, and we start learning and letting go, and we start telling one another, and you start helping each other through the process. Sometimes you didn't know who you were going to talk to, but when you start talking about what happened to you, it changes your perspective, it changes everything. You start acquiring knowledge, you start talking, you start even how to talk, how to start demanding your rights as a victim. In my case, it's been a lot of learning, and I really appreciate especially Marco Giraldo, who has given us such essential support for us to be in this process. It's learning through my mother, and I've been learning so much, and here we are waiting on God that we will be continually being trained, and that we will continue going through this process. And when we get together to make those feminine paths, we can arrive sad, but once we're done working, we feel better. We get to work, like Seven was saying. When we started selling our feminine hygiene, we know that we have a ticket to continue our search, to continue trying to find our relatives who have disappeared. And so for us, creating these feminine paths, it makes us feel valued, it makes us feel useful, it makes us feel like we're doing something to save the name of our disappeared people. Okay, thank you so much. So extending this that we're saying in San Antonio, in San Antonio, there's this dynamic because it's a place that's close to the sea and the continent and the island in Buenaventura. It's primarily there's a disappearance dynamic where people were taken. They were taken from, let's say, from some neighborhoods, some very specific neighborhoods, depending on the dynamics that were being lived at the moment in Buenaventura. They were taken to these places like the Mangrove, where they were disposed and their bodies disposed of after being assassinated. Their bodies were placed in the roots of the mangrove, and this would develop a very particular form of disappearance. From 2020, more or less 2019, at that time we started realizing as organization that a project would be developed, an investment project to clear and we get some machinery in to clean the soil and some areas around the mangrove, and this dynamic would put us at risk because the suction would be taking out the land and putting it someplace else so that we could have bigger boats coming in this area for the port expansion. So what they present this possibility that they take out all this land in San Antonio from the sea, it would put at risk this search work that we'd be doing, looking for the bodies of the people who had disappeared. So from that exercise, when we had that worry that would have apply, different organizations would try to apply in Buenaventura so that they would have a special jurisdiction for peace, which is a special courthouse, which would work with the dialogues by 2016 with the guerrillas. This court has this particular issue where it can do certain things to protect areas and certain people with different sorts of protections. And this would be a protection for the statuary of San Antonio so that they would not do this getting the land project. And finally, this application was approved in 2020. And as relatives also had the capacity to be met during these situations, they could develop these searches. So the court can also order the different institutions of the state, search parties, as well as other state entities to first of all protect the San Antonio Statuary because of the particular characteristics it's got with the conflict dynamics and the disappearances in Buenaventura, but also to do the search areas that haven't been done in like 20 years or 20 years there haven't been any searches in the area. So from this exercise, we have been able to develop different actions, which is basically research processes and recognitions in public hearings in court so that women and the people who participate in these search exercises can also tell their own stories. They can tell to the court what's been happening with their relatives and also the different hypotheses that we have with each case. Each one has like a specific, everyone takes their specific relative's case, but we've also managed to do a network and go with them and be with them throughout this process through the different actions and the different places. This has allowed us to perform different social mapping processes to be able to mark in the San Antonio's statuary and how everything has developed about forced disappearances in the area and the importance that this has for the organizing effort of our colleagues in Buenaventura. I would also like them to tell us more going into Mujeres Manglar. We were talking about the space that they have, the therapeutic aid that you receive and the crafting, the way it's been therapeutic also, and starting to knit and weave relationships and thoughts and ways to relate among you. So I don't know if we could start with Martita telling us a little bit about the therapeutic effort that this has, and then we can talk about the different with Juran and about weaving and embroidery, and specifically creating the feminine hygiene pads.
So if Martika is here, maybe she can share. It seems that maybe she's not here. Judah, are you here? If you're speaking, Judah, your microphone is off. If you're still connected. Oh, Sebita, can you repeat what you were saying? We didn't hear you. Oh, I was just asking if you could share a little bit about, the therapeutic practice and what having these jobs have meant to you all in the group. How has this exercise that you were sharing of knitting, of weaving, um, have helped? Maybe Fulya is also there and can tell us more. Yes, so in this exercise of putting this together, uh, when we meet up, this joining as Afro women, um, as we sew on buttons, as we prepare these sanitary towels, it's been incredibly therapeutic because in this moment we're able to share. We do breathing exercises so that we can calm down if anybody is just too sad at the moment. And yeah, just the getting together that we do. Once we get home, we feel so much more calm. We've been able to talk about our feelings, open up to each other, and that creates, friendship, companionship. I call her mamita. I call them all mamita, and because they're women who are older than we are. And so it's just one of the best spaces in which I've been able to be whenever we meet together like this, um, to weave things together. So yeah, it's wonderful, wonderful therapeutic help to us all because it makes us feel dignified, because we're able to share our feelings. And so I have Doña Fulvia here. Good day. Good day, Fulvia. How are you? I'm well, thanks to God. How about you? Well, thank you. I wanted to see if you could share a little bit about what the experience of weaving or knitting has been like with um with everyone, and then just the embroidery that you're working on now, as an exercise of memory, of remembering, and what it's meant to you and what significance it holds. Well, in terms of knitting or weaving, the experience that we have is one of remembering our relatives with every stitch. Every stitch that we make, we remember our relatives. And that's something that has really helped us getting together, um, being able to share the issues that we all have with our disappeared relatives. And it's also just a way of helping our families because we're able to sell, bags, sell like coin holders, and it's not that it's a lot, but it does helps out our families. And in terms of the new embroideries, it makes you feel nostalgic when we're embroidering for our families because it keeps them present. It's a way of not forgetting them. And so we get together, the same group of people, and we just share like where we are in our process, in our search for our disappeared families. And we're like a family at this point. We've integrated into a family, all of us families of disappeared folks. And yeah, we've received like a lot of resilience training. And that's it. Yeah, in these spaces for us, um, doing sanitary napkins or weaving or embroidering, we are able to just to really, really open up to each other. And in Spanish, the word is undrown, which is beautiful. Oh, okay. Thank you, Jura. Thank you, Fulvia. Thank you so much. Yes, so that's what we talk about in the article. Talk about how through these bonds, through these, this manufacturing, these crafting, we also like build um an emotional community. It's developing a family and returning to this idea of extended family, which has Afro-descendant communities, particularly in Colombia, have been so named. That family goes beyond blood ties and has more to do with the territorial communities that are formed. And so it's also a way of like building this idea of emotional communities as a way of understanding the exercise that we've been doing as well in Mujeres Manglar. And so thinking about one of these concepts that we worked on for the blog series was, thinking about the relationship between collective leadership, which is the exercise that, you've all been in process with of, visibilization, in terms of the forced disappearance of your family members, but also, let's say, the building of equitable relationships and also like financially sustainable uh, relationships and collective relationships that you have now developed in this organization and that you continue working on in different ways through the elaboration of these products that are the basis of the organization. And I think Martika is here now. I wanted to see if we could talk a little bit about how this therapeutic practice came about through, the elaboration of the eyes of God, of the backpacks in the beginning, of the little purses. And then we can say how, this has also come become into like the consolidation of Mujeres Manglar and thinking about the sanitary napkins. If you're here, could you share a little bit? Hello. Well, let's say that this therapeutic practice was born maybe also from, a conversation from the needs that women were expressing in these spaces. It gives like different space for feelings, for emotions, and then in terms of the relationship to victimization, which in many cases is not a process that treats us as humans or gives you the freedom to speak, to process, to cry and dialogue. It was also just um, steps that were forgotten, forgotten among families, forgotten among the community. And so this became into a situation um, that led to like physical expressions, pains for, many times like someone would express like, I went to the doctor because something hurts, but the doctor's not giving me anything, or the medicine that they're giving me doesn't work, or they say I no longer know what to do because everything um that I complain about has no cure, no remedy. It was that type of comment we were hearing. And so in relationship to that, there's something that's really important, right? Which is that um it was this contesting of the violence happening in Buenaventura. Like women would lead these searches for their disappeared families. They would organize themselves to become these social leaders within a context of hostile violence, within a context in which, day to day, the violence is there creating more victims, but also, making them victims themselves through threats, through aggression, through gender-based violence, mockery, just or invisibilizing or like wanting this type of violence to become invisible, which is something that is heavily emphasized by, you know, these armed groups, the silence that they impose, and you know, by these like organized criminals who are violent and armed. And so we felt that that was like imperative that women specifically who are having, you know, these real aspirations for justice within the framework of their tragedy, their violence, are also being subjected to other types of violence and are witnessing and occupying, you know, spaces in which more violence is being enacted toward the community. So we always talk about the psychosocial topic, the therapeutic topic, you know, that needs to accompany these other issues that have so much more to do with the being, the woman, you know, that we making sure that they happen and they should be even more necessary. Thank you, Martika. I wanted to also, you know, while we begin closing up, talk about these like interventions and also see if there are questions or just concerns that from people who are logged on. But this exercise that we do also thinks about the construction of systemic change, right? And how betting on like equitable relationships and collective leadership depends on how we understand these forms, these shapes of social transformation. Let's say that for, you know, for the group, for Mujeres Manglar, it's primarily within these fights for dignity, for justice, for truth, also for, let's say, like the internal reparation and of not having these things be repeated.
But it's also say that from a systemic focus, we think that an idea has developed and a very clear exercise has been made with the care of the feminine body with these reusable hygienic pads has also cared for the territory. It's a perspective that grows from the work of traditional medicine and traditional midwifery that women used to have in the group. And from this reflection also about feminine care and feminine of the women care of the women's body is also helped with the thought of these creation of these reusable pads, and then how this is built to take care of the territories from the care of the body. And then if you could all tell us about the experience of what it was like to work with Janita or Enid, and let's say how this idea was developed of, let's say, taking care of the body so that then we could take care of the territory from perspective of waste in the mangrove and what is implied by the use of the territory. Taking care of the environment. Martika, if you could tell us a little bit about what we're talking about, midwifery and Emil's and Anita's positions. Or maybe if Judah or Ulvia want to tell us about how it was working with them, what it was like. Well, working with Marianne, may she rest in peace. she's no longer in this physical plane with us, but it was very enriching. She was a traditional midwife, and she had so much knowledge about the land and about remedies and herbs and what we had to drink, what we had to do. We lost a lot from a very incredible memory when she left. We didn't have anything that she taught us. It's left in writing, but she had so many remedies and so many things. She had so much knowledge, right? And she would exchange knowledge with us, and not only when a person was suffering for conflicts, but our bodies also suffer the consequences of our mental situations. Our bodies get sick. But from what she taught us, she gave us a lot of opportunity to take care of our bodies, to avoid disease, to take care of diseases that we got. She provided the remedy. So it was learning how to take care of our land also, but our territory too, and all the herbs that she loved so much and she used so much. Thank you. Yeah, we mainly thought about this idea of systemic change, and that's with Mujeres Manglar. It's not only about the fight for justice, dignity, and truth, and the guarantees of no more disappearances in Buenaventura, but also it is a project to build an emotional community, to develop a family from this relationship with pain. It's born from there, but it also builds other weavings, other connections, collectivity from these efforts as an organization. We also think about economical, financial sustenance and life sustenance. So what's mentioned in the article is how to develop relationships with material things in life, also our day-to-day things, what is implied by the financial relationship amongst them, but it's also thought about as a project that short and long-term work, caring for the territory, knowing what waste implies and consumerism implies. So using, instead of using disposable feminine pads, which are so much waste and so wasteful, we try to create this systemic change and focusing on this relationship with life and the collective and the territory. As Yorani was saying previously, the possibility of transforming and continuing to work for the transformation of these spaces, which at this time were life spaces, and the reproduction of life. This is where you would pick up life, sea life, which was the basis of nutrition in the communities of Buenaventura. And we think of this as an exercise in systemic change, trying to give new meaning to these spaces where conflict has created as death spaces, and we can honor these spaces and generate memory exercises and retaking these spaces as spaces of liberation for the community. And I think this is where we open a space for questions. If somebody wants to intervene or comment about what we have been talking about. So precisely that. If you want to ask something, this is the time. We're definitely here for that. Lena is asking us, in what neighborhood do they develop the feminine hygiene pads? So the workshop is mainly in one of the colleagues' home. She's not here today. Judah, where is the workshop located? Is in Bella Vista by 44th in Maria Elena's house. That's where we have the sewing machine. Yeah, Doña Maria Elena is the one who's been holding the workshop and who has taught most of them how to do the cuts and how to create the pads. It's been a collective effort exploring the different materials that work for these reusable hygiene pads. She also developed this proposal for presentation for the exercises about the development of the products so that these pads can be sold. So it's in Maria Elena's workshop where they do everything. And they want to know if women worked with the creation of the pictures. The pictures are basically a document of all the different exercises, all the memories and ritual actions we've had, meeting with relatives. The pictures are actually my pictures. I took them to be able to document these meeting spaces, this gathering, but the mandalas, the altars, everything, the presentation for this memory exercise and to be a memorial, it is a completely by them. I just take the pictures. So they meet autonomously to create the proposal to create these feminine hygiene paths. From what neighborhoods do women go to gather shellfish? From this group, Judah, do we have people here who gather shellfish? Seba, that organization that we so we have a space So women harvest the shellfish there. We don't harvest shellfish right now because we started looking for disappeared folks in this area. So we're not really harvesting shellfish anymore. But right now, with the situations that we have right now, it's impossible to harvest shellfish or to fish or to meet the requirements that women used to have to get their daily bread, like we say here. Agreed. Okay, so then Danny asked us what have been your ways of reconnecting with the mangrove in addition to looking for the relatives in them. I don't know, but I say that we don't see the mangrove as a death area. We see it as a life area, even though we are no longer expecting to find our disappeared people, or we can harvest shellfish or fish, but we still see the mangrove as a place with strong roots, a place of life, a place with very green leaves, a beautiful place close to the beach. So we look at the mangrove as that place, not that place that took away our relatives, but a place full of life, a place that belongs to our lives. Okay, Jura, thank you very much. I also think that it's really important in this process, like I was telling you, uh, from a perspective, it's been like a spiritual journey, like to all the process of the search, so that gatherings start with the search, because that's the context that has allowed all of the closeness and all of the closeness to the estuary, the San Antonio estuary, and also the exercises of remembering the estuary, and has also been about proposing different exercise, different offerings, and identifying spaces also to heal the territory, right? And they've been different exercises that we have performed as part of this recognition of what has happened there, but also as a recognition of the life that still exists in the San Antonio estuary and the communities in Buenaventura. So it's been a big exercise that begins with the search, but also wishes to generate healing spaces for the territory through different exercises that are developed from rituals and more spiritual exercises by the Afro-Indian communities in Buenaventura.
Okay, well, I think if there's no more questions, then we can start closing up. For me, it's really important to give thanks. Give thanks to Jurani, Magda, Fulvia for being here and joining us in the presentation. Really want to appreciate the team at Illuminate Network just for the possibility of even being able to share this story, to be a part of this blog project and to be able to share this story in other spaces. And we hope that it visibilizes the struggle of families who have disappeared family members. And also thank you to the Colectivo Arare for this opportunity and for inviting us to be a part of this blog so that we could develop this proposal. And then to all the people who have also been a part of this, by reading or just joining us throughout the process, the research process, the writing process, just the process in general that we've been undertaking as an organization. I think it's been really valuable to organize this. And so I also want to thank everyone who connected today, and who is here. Thank you so much for being here. It's just such a beautiful space that we have been able to build. Yes, thank you to everyone here.
Sebastian, are you finished?
Yes, we're finished.
Okay. Well, I just want to say again, thank you to everyone who came out and participated. That's much appreciated. I once again want to say you can read Sebastian's blog and or previous blogs at the link that I am putting in the chat right now. Our next blog is also going to be in Spanish, if that is something that will interest you as well. It is on the 5th of June, and it is titled Desafíos para el Cambio Sistémico, Perspectivas desde Realidades Latinoamericanas. And the engagement activity, which will be a workshop, will follow on June 13th. Thanks again for attending, and we hope you check out what we have done previously and what we have coming up. Have a good day, everyone.